My phone lit up in the dark like an alarm flare. 4:02 a.m. Unknown number first. Then another. Then her name. Maya. It was the 15th call before I finally answered. "Hello?" I said. My voice low, steady, almost bored. "Eli, what did you do?" She screamed so loudly I flinched. "My clothes. My things. What the hell is all of it doing outside Adrian's office? Are you out of your mind?" I leaned back against my pillow, staring at the ceiling fan slicing slow circles in the darkness. I could picture it all without seeing it. Hallway lights too bright, sterile gray carpet, and a tower of cardboard boxes and suitcases stamped with our past life, blocking the door to her boss's corner office. I closed my eyes and exhaled. "Good morning to you too," I murmured. "Long night at work, I take it? Don't you dare play stupid." Her voice shook, a mix of rage and panic. "You packed my entire life into boxes and dumped it at my workplace, at my boss's door. Are you trying to destroy me?" "Destroy you?" I repeated quietly. "No, Maya. I just moved your things closer to where you've been spending your nights." The silence that followed was thick, brittle. I heard the faint echo of footsteps in the hallway around her, the sound of cardboard scraping as someone shifted a box. Maybe. She lowered her voice like she was afraid someone might hear. "You're sick," she hissed. "Do you realize who Adrian is? Do you know what you've done to my reputation?" I rolled onto my side and stared at the empty half of the bed where her pillow used to be. The dent where her head used to rest had smoothed out days ago. "Yeah," I said. "I'm painfully aware of who Adrian is." I was also painfully aware of how it started. And for the first time since everything blew apart, I allowed myself to think about the moment I knew. "My name is Eli Parker, 33, software consultant, part-time overthinker. Up until last Wednesday, if you'd asked anyone who knew us, they'd have said Maya and I had a pretty good marriage. We were the couple people pointed to as proof that you could be stable and still fun. We hosted game nights. We sent Christmas cards. We posted anniversary photos with inside jokes in the captions. Behind the filters and the carefully chosen angles, though, something had been rotting for a long time. I just hadn't wanted to smell it. Started on a Wednesday like any other. I was standing in our kitchen, wrestling with one of those impossible plastic seals on a jar of pasta sauce, when my phone buzzed on the counter. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and glanced over, expecting some routine reminder. Maya was big on routine. Color-coded calendar, notifications for everything, lists in her notes app that could rival military logistics. She worked in branding at a high-end agency downtown, the kind of place with exposed brick walls, hanging plants, and people who said things like, "Let's circle back," with a straight face. The message preview froze me. "I'm staying overnight at the office with Adrian to hit a deadline. Don't wait up. Love you." I stared at the words. Overnight. With Adrian. My fingers went cold. In 4 years at that agency, Maya had never stayed later than 6 p.m. She religiously complained if she missed her 7 p.m. yoga. The one time a client emergency had kept her till 8:30, she'd sulked about it for 2 days. And overnight, with Adrian Cole, her boss, Mr. Perfectly Tailored Suit, Mr. Carefully Messy Hair, the kind of man who had an expensive watch for every day of the week and cologne you could smell before you saw him. I'd met him at a company gala once. He shook my hand like he was doing me a favor. He also called Maya my star twice in front of me like I wasn't even there. I picked up the phone, read the message again, and my father's voice slipped in from some old corner of my mind. "When someone shows you who they are, son, believe them the first time." My heart was pounding. My head felt weirdly calm. I could have replied with a flood of questions. I could have demanded proof. I could have driven there like a maniac and made a scene in the lobby. Instead, I typed, "Got it. Thanks for letting me know." No punctuation. No emojis. No follow-up. Just 7 little words. I hit send and set the phone down like it was something poisonous. The sauce simmered. The apartment hummed quietly. The ceiling light buzzed faintly. My hands shook as I stirred the pasta, but my thoughts fell into a kind of frightening clarity. She hadn't just lied. She'd picked the laziest possible lie. She didn't even try to make it believable. Overnight. With the man she'd been texting after midnight for the past 3 months. The same guy she'd bumped into at the coffee shop 2 weekends in a row. The same name that lit up her phone face down on the couch whenever she turned away, shoulders curling in, hiding the screen. I'd ignored my gut so many times I trained it to whisper. But that text? That was a scream. I portioned the pasta into 2 bowls. Habit. I set one at my place at the table, one at hers. Habit. I poured wine into 2 glasses. Habit. Then I stopped. The second glass trembled in my hand. My throat tightened. It wasn't just that she might be cheating. It was that she clearly assumed I was too blind or too weak to notice. Somewhere between the pasta pot and the wine bottle, the idea came. Sharp, cold, clean. I set the second glass down where she usually sat, stared at it for a long moment, then took a slow sip from mine. If she was going to treat our marriage like a flexible concept, I'd treat her comfort the same way. Her closet was a world of its own. I flipped on the light and blinked. A soft glow spilled over carefully arranged clothing, shoes lined like soldiers on parade, handbags displayed like trophies. It smelled faintly of expensive perfume and the dry cleaner's plastic. I ran my hand along the hangers. Silk, velvet, linen. The outfits she chose for important meetings. The dresses she wore to company parties where she laughed a little too loudly at Adrian's stories. I didn't cry. I thought I would. Instead, something inside me went quiet. A heaviness in my chest turned into a cold, controlled focus. I went to the garage and grabbed every empty cardboard box I could find. Old Amazon boxes, a forgotten moving box from when we first moved in, even a storage bin I'd been meaning to use for winter clothes. I set the first box in the middle of the walk-in closet. I started folding. Blouses, blazers, dresses. The cream one she wore to that rooftop event with Adrian's team. I remembered watching her spin under the lights that night, her dress catching every color. I'd felt a flicker of unease when I'd caught Adrian watching her the same way. Into the box. Her black heels with the red soles she called her power shoes went in next, wrapped in old packing paper. She'd once justified the price by saying, "They'll pay for themselves when I make creative director." Maybe they would, just not in the way she imagined. I worked methodically, work clothes first, then casual outfits, then the special occasion pieces. Each item felt like removing another layer of the life we'd built together. My hands moved on autopilot. My mind watched each memory attached to each piece. Our first anniversary dinner, her promotion celebration, that beach trip she'd spent mostly on her phone, putting out work fires. At some point, my lips pressed into a thin line. I kept going. Her jewelry box was the only time my fingers hesitated. Mahogany, polished. Inside, glittering fragments of years. The silver bracelet I'd given her when she got her job. The necklace from her grandmother. The earrings she wore the night I proposed. I picked them up one by one. Not to feel sentimental. To remember. Not just who she used to be, but the exact moment she started becoming someone else. I wrapped them in tissue and placed them carefully in a smaller box. This wasn't about destruction. It was about relocation. By the time I taped the 7th box shut, sweat ran down my back. My t-shirt stuck to my shoulders. My lungs felt tight, but my mind was more awake than it had been in months. I filled 2 suitcases with her gym clothes and pajamas, because apparently she was finding new ways to stay active. Her novelty pajamas, the fluffy socks she wore, the robe she reached for on lazy Sunday mornings. All of it. By the time I was done, her side of the closet was almost bare. All that was left hanging was a single denim jacket she rarely wore and one of my hoodies she'd claimed years ago. I stared at that empty space for a long time. The bar where her clothes had hung looked wrong, exposed. My chest ached. For a second, I thought I might collapse. Then I remembered that, overnight with Adrian text, the ache evaporated. Something harder took its place. It was almost midnight when I loaded the last box into my car. My old charcoal sedan groaned under the weight of expensive fabric and half a decade of shared life. The back seat was stuffed with boxes. The trunk barely closed around the suitcases. I sat behind the wheel for a second, hands on the steering wheel, engine idling. The neighborhood was quiet. Just the hum of streetlights and the distant rush of traffic. If I did this, there was no going back. I took one long breath and put the car in drive. Downtown at night felt like a different planet. The glass towers that looked so impressive during the day now stood like cold, gleaming monoliths. The agency building where Maya worked glowed painfully bright, all clean lines and glass. I pulled into a loading zone in front of it. There was one security guard inside the lobby, in a booth, head tilted back, mouth open, asleep in front of a muted TV. I watched him for a moment through the glass. The man didn't move. I grabbed the first box, walked through the doors like I belonged there, and the automatic lock clicked open without resistance. My heart hammered against my ribs as I crossed the lobby, waiting for an alarm, a shout. Nothing. An elevator dinged softly as it opened. I stepped inside and pressed the button for the 7th floor. As the doors closed, I caught my reflection in the mirrored wall. I looked calm. Too calm for a man whose marriage was disintegrating in real time. "Let's finish this," I whispered to myself. The corridor outside the elevator was quiet, carpet swallowing my footsteps. Office doors lined the hallway, nameplates glinting on each. At the end of the hall, the one with the big corner window and the polished sign. Adrian Cole, Creative Director. I smiled without humor. Perfect. I stacked the boxes neatly on either side of his door. 1, 2, 3. Suitcases upright like sentries. Her handbags on top, arranged almost artfully. Maya always said presentation matters. This was immaculate presentation. I stepped back and took in the scene. It was ridiculous, petty, brutal, and somehow deeply satisfying. a visual summary of her choices, lined up at the threshold of the man she'd chosen. I took my wallet out and pulled a crumpled receipt from a grocery store. I'd bought ingredients for the dinner she was supposed to come home to. The irony wasn't lost on me. I found a working pen at the receptionist's desk, walked back, and wrote slowly on the back of the receipt, "Maya's belongings. Since she spends her nights with you now, it seemed practical to move her life here too. Eli." I pressed the note on top of the topmost box. Then I took out my phone and snapped a photo. Not out of spite, out of self-preservation. Proof that I was done being the only one suffering in silence. The elevator ride down felt different. Lighter. My stomach still churned, but there was a clarity in my veins that almost felt like adrenaline. I drove home with the windows cracked, night air cold on my face. Some song played on the radio, something about letting go. I almost laughed. When I finally crawled into bed, the house felt hollow. No shoes by the door, no faint scent of her hair on the pillow. For the first time in months, I fell asleep without waiting for her key in the lock. The first call came at 4:02 a.m., then 4:03, then 4:05. Her photo stared up at me from the screen. A shot from some vineyard trip, both of us blurry and laughing. My stomach twisted as I hit answer. Now, in the dim light of my bedroom, with her frenzied breathing hissing through the speaker, I listened. "You've destroyed everything," she cried. "Do you understand what people will think?" "They'll think," I said quietly, "that you spend so much time at your boss's office that it made sense to send your things there." "This isn't funny, Eli." Her voice cracked. "The security cameras, the cleaning crew. My team comes in at 9. Everyone's going to see this. Adrian is furious. He says this is harassment." I let out a humorless laugh. "Harassment?" I repeated. "Interesting. Did he teach you that word before or after you started lying to your husband about deadlines?" "You're twisting everything," she shouted. "Nothing happened. We're just working. You're being paranoid and vindictive and insane." "Overnight?" I asked softly. "At the office. The same man you suddenly started dressing up for. The same man who messaged you after midnight. The same man whose car was parked outside that boutique hotel when you told me you were at a team dinner 3 weeks ago." She went silent. I'd seen her car there too that night. I hadn't told her. I remember sitting in my car, fingers gripping the steering wheel, convincing myself I was overreacting. "Don't rewrite this in your head," I said. "You know what you're doing, so do I. I've just chosen to stop pretending." "You're humiliating me," she whispered. "No," I replied. "You did that. I just rearranged the props." Her breath hitched. For a second, I thought she'd start sobbing. Instead, her tone went cold. "You'll regret this. You're childish and cruel. And when people hear what you've done—" "Oh, people are going to hear," I said quietly. "You can count on that." I hung up. Her name flashed 3 more times. I turned my phone off and stared into the darkness until sleep dragged me under again. By morning, the explosion hit. My phone lit up like a fireworks show when I turned it back on around 8. Missed calls, new messages, notifications, and one name I knew would appear sooner or later. Mom-in-law. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. "Good morning, Diane," I said, stepping onto the balcony with my coffee. Cool air brushed my face. The city was waking up below. Cars, birds, distant horns. It all sounded quieter than the anger barreling through the speaker. "How dare you?" she hissed, skipping any kind of greeting. "What kind of man throws his wife's belongings out like trash?" Maya called me hysterical. "Do you know what you've done to her?" I sipped my coffee slowly. Tasted stronger than usual. Or maybe I was just more awake. "Hi, Diane. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking." "Don't get smart with me," she snapped. "Maya is devastated." "You just snapped. This isn't normal behavior, Elijah. Are you having some kind of breakdown? Is this about your father?" "Because there's nothing wrong with me," I cut in quietly. "But there's a lot wrong with your daughter's definition of marriage." She scoffed loudly. "Oh, please. She works hard. She's under pressure. If she had to stay late one night, that doesn't give you the right to." "It wasn't one night," I said. "It wasn't one text, or one late meeting, or one team trip. It was a pattern. A pattern of disappearing, of secretive texting, of deadlines that somehow always involved her boss." "You're making accusations based on paranoia," Diane shot back. "Maya would never cheat. She was raised better than that." The denial in her voice sounded almost desperate. "Did she show you the text she sent last night?" I asked. "The one where she casually mentioned she would be pulling an overnight with Adrian? First time in years. No lead-up. No warning. Just, 'By the way, I'm not coming home.' That doesn't mean." "That's when I knew," I said. "Not because of how late she was staying. Because she assumed I was stupid enough to buy it." Diane's breathing crackled through the speaker. She was searching for something to hit me with. You took vows, she spat finally. For better or for worse. You don't blow up a marriage over some misunderstanding. You get counseling. You work on it. You're supposed to protect my daughter, not ruin her. I did take those vows, I answered. And I honored them from day one. I was loyal when she was vague. I was understanding when she was distant. I stayed while she rewrote our life around a man with a better office. I don't believe you, she whispered. That's your choice, I replied. But whether you accept it or not, your daughter walked out of this marriage long before I packed those boxes. All I did was make it official. You're going to regret this, she said again, voice shaking. You'll end up alone. She'll move on. You'll be the bitter one no one wants to be around. The funny thing was, I already felt less alone than I had in months. We'll see, I told her. Have a nice day, Diane. I hung up before she could reply. Around noon, another unknown number flashed. I answered and leaned back in my chair. This is Eli. Eli, this is Adrian Cole. The voice on the other end was low, controlled, trying too hard to sound calm. We haven't spoken since the gala last year, but I believe we need to discuss something, preferably like adults. I smiled. There it was. Adrian, I said, infusing my voice with polite brightness. What a surprise. How's the decor around your door today? A pause. There are, personal belongings stacked outside my office, he said. Your wife's belongings, from what I gather. This was a very inappropriate choice, Eli. We're a professional environment. You've put Maya in an extremely uncomfortable. Professional, I repeated. Interesting word to use about overnight deadlines. His voice dropped an octave, just a touch. I think there are some misunderstandings here. Maya stayed late working. That's all. We're pushing for a big client, and it required extra hours. Whatever you've imagined, I can assure you. You don't have to assure me of anything. I cut in. You're not my concern. I didn't send those boxes to shame you, Adrian. That was just a side effect. You can't threaten me, he snapped. There it was, the crack in his composure. I could press charges. You can't just dump things here like I'm some storage unit. I didn't threaten you, I said. I relocated my wife's possessions to what appears to be her new home base. It's practical. I thought you'd appreciate efficiency. Isn't that what you agency people like? You're not well, he said coldly. She told me you were getting unstable, controlling. This kind of stunt proves it. She told you I was controlling? I laughed, but there was no humor in it, right? Did she mention anything about car rides to hotels? Or secret texts? Or suddenly going radio silent while she's supposedly working late with you? Listen. No. I interrupted, my patience evaporating. You listen. You get to play mentor at the office and pretend this is a tragic love story. A woman whose husband doesn't understand her. But when she texts that she's working overnight with Adrian, she stops being my partner and becomes your problem. He inhaled sharply. If you try anything else, I'll involve HR, he said finally. And legal. This is harassment, and we take that seriously here. You do that, I murmured. And while you're at it, maybe read your company ethics policy. I'm sure there's a section on sleeping with your subordinates. Have a blessed day, Adrian. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From release. Around 3 p.m., the war went public. Maya's social media post hit my phone like a grenade. The caption was long, dramatic, written in the wounded heroine voice she'd perfected over years of curated vulnerability. I never thought I'd be that girl posting about my private life. But here we are. My husband had some kind of breakdown and threw all my belongings out at my workplace with no warning. I've been trying to support him, but this is abuse. Please, if you've been in a toxic relationship, tell me it gets better. Photo. A close-up of the boxes outside Adrian's office door, carefully framed so the nameplate wasn't visible. Comments flooded in. He did what? You don't deserve this, babe. Men are trash. You're so strong. I stared at the screen, a mix of disgust and resignation churning in my gut. She was faster than I expected. But she'd forgotten something important. You can lie about what happened. You can't lie about what's written. I scrolled up to the message from the night before. The line that started it all. I'm staying overnight at the office with Adrian to hit a deadline. Don't wait up. Love you. My thumb pressed the screenshot buttons. Click. I opened my own profile. I wasn't a big social media guy. I had like 200 friends, mostly coworkers and old classmates. But it was enough. I typed. Since my wife decided to share a version of our situation, here are a couple of missing details for context. I attached the screenshot of her message from last night. Timestamps. Contact name. Nothing edited. Under it, another photo. The one I'd taken in the hallway outside Adrian's office. The boxes, the suitcases, the note. After receiving this message, I packed her belongings and delivered them to the place she chose to spend the night. I'm not having a breakdown. I'm done pretending I don't see what's right in front of me. I didn't add insults. I didn't call her names. I just posted facts. Within minutes, the notifications came. My phone vibrated nonstop. Holy crap. My coworker texted. Dude, I'm so sorry. Also, damn. Receipts. One of my gym buddies commented. Under Maya's post, things shifted almost immediately. Wait, is this about that overnight with Adrian? Girl, this isn't it. You said he snapped with no warning, but some of her friends went quiet. Others deleted their comments entirely. Within an hour, her post disappeared. Mine stayed. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel proud. I felt clean. Like I'd finally stopped letting someone slap labels on my reality. I thought that would be the last big shock of the week. I was wrong. That evening, I tried to lose myself in work. Emails, code, project notes. My fingers moved across the keyboard on autopilot. My brain kept drifting back to empty drawers, empty hangers, echoing footsteps in the hallway of that office. Around 6 p.m., my phone buzzed with a notification from my bank. Suspicious activity detected. Did you approve this transaction? $148.90, restaurant. $812.47, boutique department store. The card number was mine. I stared at the screen. My jaw clenched. Maya knew I watched our finances closely. She also knew I'd taken her off my credit accounts 2 weeks ago after the first time she forgot to ask before charging a spa weekend. I hit no on both alerts. 10 minutes later, a call came in from the bank's fraud department. A calm woman named Julia walked me through the transactions. Given that you've reported separation and revoked her permission to use the card, she said, these qualify as unauthorized charges. So what happens now? I asked. We file a fraud report, she replied. If there are multiple attempts in a short period, it can escalate further. Have you filed a police report about the card status? No, I said slowly. Not yet. You might want to, she said gently, just to be safe. Half an hour later, there was another attempt. Gas station. Declined immediately. This time, the call came from a local officer. Mr. Parker? This is Officer Reyes. We received notice of multiple fraudulent charges on your account. You're saying your estranged wife is making these attempts? Yes, I answered, staring out the window at the darkening sky. I removed her access. She knows that. We'll add it to the report, Reyes said. If it continues, it could escalate to a warrant. It depends on how far she pushes it. I should have felt conflicted, guilty. It was still my wife they were talking about. Instead, all I felt was tired, exhausted from holding up a crumbling ceiling on my own while she set fire to the floor. Saturday evening brought the last act. I was in the kitchen with my brother Noah, who dropped by with beer and the kind of quiet concern only siblings can get away with. You sure you're okay? He asked for the third time, watching me move around the counter. No, I said honestly, but I'm done pretending I'm not drowning. He nodded slowly. You know, he said, Dad would have been proud of you for finally drawing a line. I swallowed hard. The mention of our father, gone 2 years now, hit like a punch. Before I could reply, Noah's gaze shifted to the window. You expecting company? He asked. I followed his eyes. A large pickup truck had pulled up across the street. 3 figures climbed out. 2 men I recognized as Maya's cousins, Liam and Carter, and Maya herself, hair tied back, face tight. Liam pulled something from the truck bed. A crowbar. My pulse spiked. I grabbed my phone automatically and hit my friend's name. Ryan. He was a patrol officer. Lived 15 minutes away. I didn't know if he was on duty, but I called anyway. Yo, Eli, he answered. What's up? Ryan, I said quickly, moving toward the door. Maya's here, with her cousins. They just pulled up with tools. Looks like they're about to force their way in. Can you? I'm on my way, he cut in. Don't engage. Just let me get there. Of course, Noah was already heading for the door. Noah, I warned. I'm not going to hit anyone, he said. I just want them to see they're not dealing with you alone anymore. Outside, footsteps approached my front door. Metal clinked. I flipped the deadbolt from inside just as the first jerk from the outside rattled the frame. Liam cursed under his breath. The second he tried again, I swung the door open. His hand, crowbar and all, hung in midair between us. Evening, I said softly. You lose your key? Liam's eyes bulged. He stumbled back a step. Carter looked between us, wide-eyed. Maya froze on the sidewalk, color draining from her face. We're here for Maya's things. She spat once she found her voice. You threw everything out. You don't get to keep what belongs to me. Actually, I replied. I delivered what belongs to you, to your new favorite office. As for the rest, I stepped aside and gestured toward the mostly empty living room behind me. You already took what you wanted when you checked out of this marriage. There's not much left here for you. You can't keep me from my stuff. Liam snapped, puffing his chest, crowbar still dangling from his fingers. We'll just take it and go, man. Don't make this worse. My brother stepped forward. No, Noah said calmly. You won't, because what you're doing right now is attempted breaking and entering. With a weapon. On camera. He pointed to the security camera I'd installed above the doorway 2 months ago, when late-night anxiety had become my new hobby. Carter's face went whiter. The tension snapped like a cable when a familiar blue and white car rolled slowly up to the curb. Ryan stepped out, uniform crisp, expression polite but hard. Maya exhaled sharply. Are you serious? She muttered. You called the police on me? Ryan approached with the easy stride of someone who'd done this 100 times. Evening, he said. Everything okay here? We're just trying to get Maya's belongings, Liam said immediately. Guys holding them hostage. We're not criminals. Hostage? I repeated, looking Ryan straight in the eye. Interesting choice of word for people who showed up with a crowbar. Ryan's gaze shifted to the tool in Liam's hand. His jaw tightened just slightly. Here's the situation, Ryan said evenly. This is Eli's residence. You don't have a key. You attempted to force the door. That's breaking and entering territory. If he wants to press charges, he can. I think carefully about your next move. Maya started to speak, her voice shrill. Ryan held up a hand. Ms. Shah, he said, using her maiden name. If you need access to jointly owned property, you go through the proper channels. Lawyers, court orders. You don't show up with your cousins and tools. This is not how this works. It's my home too, she snapped. You moved out, I said quietly. You moved out the night you chose to stay with Adrian instead of coming home. The rest is just paperwork catching up. Our eyes met. For the first time in days, I saw something other than anger in her gaze. Fear. Not of me. Of consequences. Ryan took everyone's statements. He wrote some notes. He didn't arrest anyone. But the message was clear. If they came back like this again, it wouldn't end with just a warning. As they left, Maya lingered at the edge of the driveway for a few seconds. You're really doing this, she said finally, her voice soft, stunned. You're turning everyone against me. You're painting me as this villain. I didn't have to paint anything, I replied. You wrote the story. I just stopped letting you hide the ending. Her lips trembled. For a moment, I saw the girl I'd met in college, laughing over cheap pizza and sharing headphones on the bus. Then she looked away. I hope you're happy, she whispered. No, I said. But I'm free. She flinched like I'd slapped her, turned, and climbed into the truck. The engine roared, tires squealed, and then they were gone. The quiet that followed was deafening. Noah exhaled loudly beside me. Next time, he said. I'm installing a moat. I laughed, came out shaky but real. The days that followed were strangely still. No more late-night texts. No more emergency meetings. No more waiting for footsteps in the hallway followed by excuses. I filed for separation, called a lawyer, closed remaining joint accounts, blocked her on everything except email. There were things to untangle. Bills, furniture, legal decisions. But emotionally, something had already snapped clean. One evening, alone in the apartment that suddenly felt twice as big, I opened the last bottle of wine we'd been saving for a special occasion. Funny how you keep saving something for a future that's already gone. I sank into the couch. No fluffy throw she'd insisted we needed for aesthetic. No decorative pillows with inspirational text. No faint smell of her perfume. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. For a second, my heart lurched in old habit. Maya? Another crisis? But the name on the screen wasn't hers. Lena Work. We'd been co-workers for 3 years. Shared inside jokes over lunch breaks. She was the one who'd quietly slipped a coffee onto my desk Thursday morning with a small post-it note. For not lighting the world on fire when you had every reason to. She knew what had happened. Everyone did by now. Our social circle had dissected it, analyzed it, picked sides. To my surprise, most people didn't see me as the villain. Lena's message was simple. Hey, I know this week has been hell. I'm heading to that cafe on Oak tomorrow morning. Want to join? I promise zero drama, zero advice, and absolutely zero bosses named Adrian. I stared at the screen, lips twitching. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like an endless hallway of dread. Felt open. Sure, I typed back. But fair warning. Apparently, I'm the type of guy who relocates his wife's belongings to her affair partner's office. Some might call that extreme. Her reply came quickly. Some might call that efficient. I like efficient. A laugh bubbled up before I could stop it. I looked around the room. The bare walls, the half-filled shelves, the empty hanger on the coat rack where her jacket used to be. It should have felt hollow. Instead, it felt honest. No more pretending our life was perfect. No more bending myself into the shape of whatever she needed to maintain her image. No more swallowing doubts and turning them into ulcers. For the first time in years, the quiet in my home wasn't oppressive. It was peaceful. I lifted my glass, the dark red catching the light from the lamp. To new beginnings, I said softly, to no one in particular. To a life where love doesn't require lies. To days without waiting for the sound of a key that might never turn. To nights without rehearsing a defense for crimes I didn't commit. I drank, and the wine went down smoother than I expected. Tomorrow, I'd sit across from someone who knew my whole messy story and still wanted to share a coffee. Maybe it would be nothing. Maybe it would be the first step towards something real. Either way, I'd walk into it with my eyes open. No more pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. If Maya taught me anything, it was this: when people show you who they are, believe them. And when you finally believe them, pack your boxes, deliver them where they belong, and don't look back.